Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 3 titled Bad Moon Rising. And from that title, it doesn't sound very good. Bad Moon? So I'm wondering if it's going to have something to do with something with nature, or, sometimes you'll hear Bad Moon Rising referring to like werewolves. Obviously it's going to be werewolves, but maybe it'll be a wolf involved. Maybe I'm just totally making up a whole new story for Heartland. Something that will never ever happen. But as we saw in the last 2 episodes, they saved that wild horse, that wild stallion, and some other horses that were going to slaughter. And also we had a reconnection with Dark Horse. And it seemed like Amy was maybe kind of questioning herself. She said she made the right decision about not going with Renard. But but it seemed like she was maybe questioning if she had, and maybe it was that she knew she made the right decision, but still you might go back and say, well, did I? But yeah, it just seemed like maybe she was regretting her decision. And I thought, well, you could have gone. You could have gone Dark Horse and then come back. I mean, maybe she wouldn't have come back. Maybe she would have been like that woman, and 10 years later would be returning to Heartland. Obviously, Ty would have moved on, because he wouldn't have been able, unless he would have gone with her. And that's a possibility too. Maybe maybe if she had gone off on Dark Horse, maybe he would have come with. Because he could still study to be a vet, really, anywhere. And they might be happy to have their own, they might have had their own vet anyways. But if not, they might have been happy to have their own vet with them on the journey. So, don't know. Doesn't necessarily mean that she and Ty would have broken up. But it is a nice chance to kind of look back and say, what if? And I think it probably has a lot of the audience members thinking that too, well, what if I had gone this route? What if I had taken that promotion? What if I, had gone to college or not gone to college or whatever? Life obviously is full of choices, and I heard them say once that you're one decision away from a completely different life, which I don't know if that's necessarily true. But, it's definitely something to consider, Because if you make the decision to go to college, and you pass college, going to college and graduating are 2 different things that Georgie knows. But, it's like if you graduate college, then yes, obviously your life is going to be different than if you don't go to college, Although, as I've said in previous videos, I really don't think college is worth it anymore. So it'll be interesting to see where the rest of this season goes, and I am happy you're here with me for episode 3. Let's get started.
Anything else that we should, talk about?
Well, a raccoon, I don't know if a raccoon would be able to do that. Would be able to do that to a camera, but it is funny thinking about it. I figured it was going to be like some sort of critter, That is, of course, the one problem with motion detection is if critters run by, then yeah, it's going to go off. We've got a doorbell camera, and so of course anytime there's motion, it'll go off. And so like at the time of recording, we have to use the laundromat because we don't have a washer and dryer. And so of course when I leave to go to the laundromat, it goes off. When I come back, it goes off. Leave to go again. You know what I mean? It's a repeating cycle. And so a lot of times, like, my husband knows when I've gone to do the laundry. Like, he came home for lunch yesterday, and I said, oh, I went to the laundromat. And he's like, I know, the doorbell kept going off. And I was like, yeah, it's going to do that. I mean, I'm sure we could, like, shut it off. But my thought on that is, okay, you go ahead and shut it off. And then what happens when it's actually needed? When someone actually shows up that we need to see. And, you know, Jack is saying he doesn't want the place to be like Fort Knox. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with that? I would much rather have the barn, the house, look like Fort Knox than to risk a break-in. I mean, if people know Heartland is protected with all these security cameras and stuff, they're going to be less likely to break, especially because they won't be able to find all the cameras. What they need is they need cameras at the house, cameras at the barn, cameras at the Dew Branch. You know, like maybe one outside each cabin. They don't need them inside the cabin because, you know, but yeah, at least one outside each cabin. Plus it would make those who rent feel better. And they could even, you know, have one like if they wanted any to view the lake or something. And maybe some of the renters wouldn't like that. And I'm sure that then they could say, okay, we can, you know, shut the cameras off while you're visiting. But they at least need those three. The barn, the house, and cameras at the Dew Branch. And maybe they'd want to add some others, you know. And in addition to that with the house, like you'd want the front of the house, you'd want the back of the house, the barn, you'd want the front of the barn, the back of the barn. You know, my thoughts are if you are going to have outside cameras, you need to basically have all four corners covered because you never know. So you need like the front covered, the back covered, you know, maybe the sides. You know, our one garage, I was thinking would be good to have a camera, you know, in the front and the back, and then maybe like one on each side because we have a detached garage. Maybe like one on each side, or at least one in the front and the back, if nothing else. But yeah, you know, so Jack is kind of, I mean, at least he was accepting. My guess is that it's not going to stay through the end of the episode, but at least he was accepting and willing to put it in. But at the same time, I'm thinking this is probably something that's long overdue. I mean, I know Hudson is a safe community, and what's her name was saying a lot of them don't even lock their doors. I'm like, yeah, but you probably still should, you know, even in today's day and age, because this would have been what, 2021? In 2021, yeah, you need to lock your doors. Sorry, but you do. Even if you're in a safe area, you know, you can never be too safe. At least he got it put back.
It's not that funny.
It is funny.
Lisa's hell bent on getting this back up and running, and I know those raccoons aren't going anywhere, so no doubt I'll be doing this again tomorrow.
You know, I don't love the idea of the security system either, but last night Lindy had her first good sleep since these break-ins started, so.
I'm so glad to hear that.
And, I know it's...
Wait to get up the group home.
You know, I have a feeling that at the end they're going to get rid of the cameras, which I don't agree with. I think that they should keep them because, again, in today's world, you unfortunately have to have them.
Oh.
Logan's obviously going to be the one who sticks around. I've seen him in pictures, like that Thanksgiving picture that they took or something, with the whole cast that you kind of see here on the cover. And he's in it, so obviously I know he's around season 16. Unfortunately, I've also seen Parker in that, so unfortunately she sticks around. What's she saying under advisement? And maybe he will after the gala.
Finally talked to Cooper. What did you say? Told him the truth. That I think the sender's in big trouble. How did he take that? Well, he didn't seem surprised, but he kind of freaked out a little bit. To be honest, I think he's in way over his head, and I think that he's putting way too much stock in this gala. I know, but his heart's in the right place. I hope this works out for him. I can still save this. I can help you put a plan in place.
She has offered to help.
Let's talk later. You know, tonight I just need to live my rules.
I knew Heartland was going to get hit eventually. You know, since they had talked about the burglaries in episode 2, and they had talked about how that was like the second or third one And then, of course, starting this one off with that being the 5th one, I was like, yeah, it's going to be Heartland. And Lisa said he turned off the whole system. I'm like, yeah, of course Jack did. To be honest, it is kind of surprising that they hadn't been hit before now. I know that Peyton's mother is convinced that it's those juvie kids. Maybe Mac has something to do with it. Maybe he doesn't. But yeah, you know, the stuff he's been doing to Challenge, yeah, it's no wonder why Challenge freaks out when he sees them. Horses are smart. Animals are smart. They know people before people know people. They know good eggs and bad eggs before we do. We're pretty dumb, actually. You know, but animals, they know. And if an animal reacts to someone, there's a reason why. And we need to stop negating their feelings. We need to stop saying like, whoa, it's okay, it's okay. It's like, no, it's not. That animal's telling you something. You need to fucking listen. I'm glad, though, that Amy said to Cooper that Mac needed to be expelled from the center. And I like that Clint is wanting to kind of help out and work with him. And, of course, Lou as well. I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks Mac is the one doing the break-ins. And I think if he is, he's going to try and blame it on Logan. I don't think it's Logan because, as I said, I know we see him there in season 16. So, but I'm also thinking it could just be someone completely random who we haven't seen before. So this next one is called Sins of a Father. So I'm guessing it's going to deal more with Logan and his father. You notice Tim wasn't in that episode. And I'm kind of surprised that he wasn't there, that he and Jessica weren't there at the gala. Maybe they were off traveling or something. You know, I mean, I've mentioned that several times. I'm like, well, why do we not have, when there's like events and stuff, why do we not have everyone, especially if it's a big gala and they want all the people there? You would think that Tim and Jessica would show up. But again, if they're traveling and out of the area, but then it seemed like they were more wanting to stay home. All right, well, why weren't Tim and Jessica there? Why couldn't Peter have flown in? I've mentioned that before, a little bone of contention I have with the show and how they do that. But as I said, I think they should have had a security system in place long ago. Do I think they're going to keep it? No. But they should, you know, because again, you can never be too safe. And it's good to have a precaution. And even when they find the people who do this, who's to say that it might not happen again? Plus, the security system is also good for them because, you know, what if, like when Ty fell, you know, and Jack and Amy were there, what if they hadn't been there? What if they'd been in the house and Ty fell? You know, the security camera, if they'd had a security camera, the security camera might have caught it, you know? Or if something happens, if Jack's out there and something falls on him or something happens when the horses bolt, if they have a camera there, they can see it. So it's more than just a security measure. You know, it can also help solve some issues if there are any. So I don't think they're going to keep the system, but they should. It just, for Jack, it just might take a little bit of getting used to. Like I said, with our Ring camera, like it takes a little getting used to. Every time you look at your phone and you see person seen, it's like, oh, okay, you know. But then you just kind of ignore it and move on. And it's going to happen. I'm sure anyone with a security system, anything that checks the outside, I'm sure probably everyone has something that will detect motion and it'll be animals, you know, like a raccoon or a squirrel going by, you know. I'm sure that happens a lot because it detects the motion. It doesn't detect what type of motion it is, you know. Now maybe someday in the future it'll be advanced enough where it can detect like critter. So if that happens, but even with that, sometimes a critter can be dangerous, you know, like if there's a cougar or a bear around or something, you might want to know about that. Anyways, I thank you for joining me for episode 3 of season 15 of Heartland, titled Bad Moon Rising. I'm going to go and start episode 4 here in just a couple minutes, and I hope you will join me for that. Thank you so much for all your support for Heartland. I am excited that I'm going to be caught up on the show soon, and of course I'm going to be waiting eagerly for the season 17 announcement. By the time this airs, hopefully we'll have a season 17, 18, 19, 20, you know, whatever, however many years this takes before this actually posts, you know. I have heard, I of course, at time of recording, I've heard that some places were saying that they were going to do 20 seasons to equal the number of books, because I guess there was a total of 20 books. Obviously, the books were based more on like season 1 and everything, the season 1 season, and maybe season 2. I have not read the book, so I don't know. But I guess it was a total of 20. And so I've heard some people say that they'll do a total of 20 seasons to equal the books. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. But I don't know that for a fact. I've also been scrolling through YouTube and seeing that they're saying season 17 is going to be the last. Again, no one knows, you know, and some of these channels, they're all about rumors and gossip and stuff. And so obviously you have to take what they say with a grain of salt. And most of those I try not to watch, at least until after I'm completely caught up. I did watch something that was talking about when like season 15 or 16 was coming to Netflix. And I shouldn't have watched that because they started talking about stuff that I wasn't even caught up on yet. And I was like, God damn it. You know? But yeah, you know, it's like once I'm all there and all caught up, then I feel like then I can be part of the club. You know, then I can kind of see what are these rumors and stuff that people are talking about and can like fully participate in the whole Heartland experience. You know, even though like I'm in Heartland groups on Facebook and stuff like that, you know, I still feel like I can't totally talk about it or talk until I'm completely caught up. But I thank you for joining me. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content, and hit that notification bell if watching on YouTube to be alerted of future Heartland reactions. Feel free to check out some of my other videos. In fact, I would greatly appreciate it if you would. And I will see you for episode 4, Sins of a Father.